Alrighty, Mind, Body, Spirit Squad members, welcome to our content for December. So today for our expert interview, I'm so happy to bring to you, this is Rosemary Hurwitz. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her and then we'll jump on in. So Rosemary is a married mom of 4 young adults, is passionate about inner directed life, and she found the focus for it in the Enneagram. She received her Enneagram certification in an Master of Pastoral Studies program at Loyola University in Chicago in 2001. Rosemary has studied and taught the Enneagram ever since. She also gives Enneagram-based private coaching for awareness and emotional wellness. So welcome, Rosemary. Thank you so much for being here.
No, Abby, Dr. Abby, I'm happy to be with you. Thank you.
Of course. And so I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably not heard of the Enneagram, so that's why we were so excited to bring it to you and learn more about it. So we're going to jump on in. So Rosemary, if you could just introduce yourself a little bit more to our audience about what you do, and I'd love to hear your story of how you fell into doing the work you do now.
Sure. Okay, so I basically captured it in the little intro. I went back midlife to get Master of Arts in Pastoral Studies. I had this calling. It was sort of, I don't know, slow calling because, if you would have asked me, would you think you'll be in spiritual direction many moons ago when I was doing corporate recruiting, I would have said, probably not. I like spirituality. I like my faith, but I probably wouldn't be doing that. Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I knew I was supposed to do one more little thing there. And it was turn off the boat.
No
All
worries.
right. It's off. Okay. So what ended up happening is my mom died. I had a 2.5-year-old little girl. My mom was a very strong spiritual influence in my life. And I went to this lady at church said, you'd love this program, Rosemary, because she knew my husband and I had done Discovery Weekends for the engaged for many years, which was like retreats for couples who are preparing for marriage, kind of patterned after Marriage Encounter. So what ended up happening is she was sort of selling this program to me on personal development and leading small groups, leading retreats. She said, you'll love it. And I said, and she said, it's perfect for a busy mother because it's only once a week for 2 years. I mean, you meet one evening a week for 2 years, and it doesn't meet in the summer.
Right.
And I thought, I could maybe do that, And at the end of these 2 years, these guys waltzed in from Loyola, and the professor, 2 of them, I think, and said, you've received X amount of credits towards a master's degree at Loyola in Pastoral Studies if you'd like that. And I was like, yeah, no thanks. That's probably not going to happen. I'm very ready to deliver a 4th baby. And I was like, that's so nice of them, but probably not. Well,
right.
now comes to pass, that I decide I really want to do it. So, because they give you a 5-year window, my mom passes, I have this little child that I'm, getting ready to put in preschool. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. They gave us a window. I'm going to do it. And I don't know. I just kept listening to that, that whisper. Really, it's a whisper. It's not anything hitting you over the head. It's just this nudge. And so I got in there and I loved all of it. But the thing that had neon around it for me was the Enneagram. And I know this might be backwards for you, but I am putting it up so people can see what it is.
No, you can see it. It's good.
Good. That's the symbol. And those arrows are what we call a wellness map. So anyway, I didn't know what it was about this that was just capturing me. I mean, I knew everything about it that was capturing me, but I had honestly heard about it in that program that I had taken. I had heard about it from time to time, and I just didn't. I came home and I said, I don't know what's going on, but I have to work with this. I said to my husband, he goes, what are you going to do with that? And I was like, thanks for all the support. But I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to work with it. And I started giving consults, and my women's group would workshop, and they wanted more, and people wanted more. And you know what John Lennon said, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. I really felt strongly connected to it and followed that.
Awesome.
And it's paid off. I've gone from people's living rooms to cruise ships to, corporate settings all over. I just go where anyone will have me because I'm that passionate about it.
Totally. That's awesome. So for those of us who aren't really familiar, can you talk about the Enneagram and what it is?
First of all, Ennea means Greek, 9 in Greek. and gram means written or symbol. So it's a symbol that was left to us, a 9-pointed symbol, sort of like a star, right, within a circle. And these points of the star-like figure depict 9 universal personality types. And they are the good reformer. I use 2-word descriptors because one time I said to a good friend, "You're the powerful protector on the Enneagram, Joe." No, I said, "You're the powerful type on the Enneagram, Joanne." And she said, "Oh, tell me more." And I said, "You're the powerful protector." And she said, "Oh, that would be me."
Yeah.
Like in 2 words, but not in the one. So Jerry Wagner, the one who trained me in my certification at Loyola, uses 1-word descriptors. But I'm going to add my second to it. So it's the number 1 is the good reformer, loving giver, effective achiever, original, also called romantic, also called individualist, wise observer, loyal skeptic, joyful adventurer, and powerful protector, peaceful mediator. So we are all of those. We share all the aspects of those 9 universal types, but we have our home in one type. And it was extremely freeing for me, someone who had done a lot of therapy and their own inner work, like in the college years, predominantly from 18 to 23. Because you asked what really propelled me into this work. And really the deepest answer to that question is I had a clinical depression when I was a college freshman. And so I had done a lot of inner work where, it's like that Alice in Wonderland stuff where you just keep opening door after door and it's so gratifying and you just can't stop. And you are really committed to the inner work, knowing that the inner work is what gives you the most joy and happiness in your life when you're on track with that. And so I shared a little bit about the Enneagram. Did you want more on that, or you lead the way here? I'm sorry.
Sure, totally. How do people go through finding out what their Enneagram type is?
So there's lots of different ways, but I'm a little bit biased. I think it's really good to have a guide because this is sacred work. You don't want to make a mistake. This isn't about, oh, she's a 2 and he's a 9 and you're a this and you're a Virgo. And first of all, it's not astrology, but it's people can sometimes, with a little bit of knowledge, they used to say a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. I forget who said that, but it's you want to be thorough is my point. And you can be thorough self-studying. So if you're the kind of person that just wants to self-study and not invest a penny other than buying a book, that's cool. My book is coming out. I'll tell you what it is at the end of our time together, and hopefully you'll buy it, and that's great. Or you'll buy another one.
Right.
But I think it's really important to work with a guide because this territory that is sacred, that is you, there's so many nuances, and this is like a rich wine. This is like a really fine, complex wine, this paradigm, and it has different layers. And it's just really it's okay to get the superficial part of it, but knowledge is one thing, wisdom and practice are another. And I think a good guide can give you all of that. They can give you the knowledge, they can give you the overview of the 9 types, they can give you what I call the 7 mainstays of the Enneagram, which are the strengths, your strengths. Let's just talk about Abby, your strengths and challenges in your personality, your emotional passion, your blind spot or area of avoidance, these arrows. This wisdom says when the arrows come toward the type, you're getting graced, you're getting gifted. And that happens when you center yourself. When you're stressed, conversely, and the arrow goes away from your type, it goes to the low side of that corresponding type. And it's sort of like the law of attraction, you center, and this wisdom says you pull in really good things from a corresponding type. The aspect of that type, not a person in the park that you're going to meet.
Right.
And you attract it within. And then, conversely, when you're stressed, these are just patterns, not houses. This is day-to-day patterns, not houses on fire kind of stress, because as we know, that can pull out the best in a person. But stress that's just stuff that you choose, and you could choose a response that would be healthier, right? But you choose sort of a stressful response. So you're in stress, you feel tension rising, and I always tell people, I'm going to teach you all about this, and I'm going to go home, and there'll be a moment where I feel stressed, because we go in and out of this all day long.
Right.
But this wisdom says when you are stressed, you have a choice. And it helps you slow the train down and helps you see what you look like and how you go to that low side of that other type, how that floods into you, and all that gunk that from your type and this corresponding type. And it shows you what that looks like real specifically, so that you can so that as you get super familiar with that and jiggy with it, you can navigate through it better.
Totally.
So if you're a peaceful type, for example, let's just give an example. If you're a peaceful type, your emotional passion would be sloth, or a laziness of self. It's all about the self. So sloth means laziness. So in this term, so it's not, I remember looking at that, and my husband's a peaceful type, a 9. And I said, he's the farthest thing from lazy. Like, I don't get this. And then it was about the laziness of self-expression. Oh, yeah. Does he merge a lot with other people? Yes. Does he not express himself enough? Yes. All those kinds of things, and his area of avoidance or blind spot is conflict. People who are peaceful have worked really hard to become peaceful through nature and nurture. By the time they're 4 or so, they are peaceful type. And they, according to experts, and so then they basically have this peaceful personality that when they get stressed attracts this low side of 6. This is what the wellness map is. And I call it the wellness map because it shows you what you feel like when you are in a state of well-being and what like when you are in the absence of that well-being, when you are in unease or dis. So, and they call it points of integration and disintegration, these arrows. So for the 9, the peaceful type, the points of integration and disintegration, or what I call the wellness map, it just looks very simple like this. When the 9 is centered, when they are in charge of their emotional passion, of self-forgetting, laziness of self, and they are directing that passion. It's not running them all over town with a ring in the. Then they're also clear about their blind spot. They're running from conflict, and they're and when they're safe and secure, right centered, they're doing their conflict resolution work. They're like, I'm not a conflict. I can handle this. I can resolve this. So they're doing this inner work. They're clear about what their passion, their emotional passion is, and how to navigate it and stop, drop, and roll around it and manage it instead of run right with it all over. They're clear about how their blind spot affects them, and they face that they don't love conflict. Oh, well, guess I got to get in the ring and discipline this sassy 17-year-old. I got to do it, even though I don't like it.
Right.
And they do that, they're connecting to themselves. And then what they end up doing, because when they're safe and secure, this type connects to the high side of effective. And the wisdom says that the effective achiever just pours into them, and they become love and harmony in action, like extraordinaire. So they get to see what this wellness map looks like for them. They also, a person who's taking the Enneagram reading or learning about it for themselves would also learn, if they're getting in depth, they would learn what center they operate from. Are they a head type, a heart type, or a gut type? Why that's important is because lots of times, you hear, the heart. You hear so much good stuff about the heart. And the heart is good because it's really our spiritual place. But for being humans that have divine natures, what we're trying to understand here is how to be balanced. And so balance doesn't come from just one spot. It comes from the 3 centers: the body, the gut, the spirit, the heart, and the head, the mind. Mind, body, spirit,
Yep.
So want to not problem solve out of a heart center that's stressed, because what is heart in stress? What is that? It's drama. Right? What is head in stress? Monkey mind, obsessive, too much analyzing, too much going over it. My dad used to say, don't grind the hamburger. I was like, like that expression. And the gut center, knee-jerk reactions, hence the word jerk, because that's what you feel like afterwards if you're a gut-centered person and you say these things that are too quick. The reaction's quick. So the reason that's so important in learning about the head, heart, are you a head, heart, or gut-centered person, is because you learn that it's best to problem solve when all of the answers to your issue match out of each of those centers.
Got it.
And it's because you're really accessing the wisdom of, because those three centers take up the 9 types. The loving giver, the effective achiever, and the original or romantic type are heart-centered people. The wise observer, the loyal skeptic, the joyful adventurer are head types. The powerful protector, the peaceful mediator, and the good reformer are gut types. So those 3 triads, that's the wisdom of all of it. If you really operate from a centered place and want to get to the center of each of those places, you've accessed the wisdom of the sort of a shortcut.
Yes, totally. I love that. And so, yeah, because I've heard several people, you can take a quiz online and find out your type and blah, blah. But I'm sure, I would assume, like working with someone like yourself is probably much more in depth than doing something like that.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to get all of this. You're going to get a lot about your strengths and your challenges, your emotional passion, your blind spot, and we all have them. So you're not alone. Area of avoidance, we call that blind spot. And you're going to learn your wellness map, and you're going to learn it in a way that is practical. That you get strategies like, like this one lady said as a 2, she was a loving giver. She raised her hand in a workshop and she said, I know that as a 2, a loving giver, I avoid my own needs, and my passion is pride, and I get real prideful, and I get false pride going and want to give, even to get. But I know what I need. I'm so much more comfortable doing that, and I don't even know what I need. So I know I go to the low side of 8 and get all resentful and say, nobody loves the way I love, damn it, basically. But she goes, I don't know what I need. And I said, I promise if you go and sit and do fast pen method, or I gave her some strategies to tune into what her needs were, that, she can stay in the trajectory that I believe is who she's meant to be, which is the loving giver, and she receives from the high side of the creative, as opposed to the low side of the loving giver, who is sort of like in other people's backyards more than she's in her own, and then gets resentful because nobody gives to her, and then she ends up at the low side of the powerful protector, which is kind of like the bully on the playground.
Yes, totally.
Sense.
Yeah. And so you've spoken to this a little bit, but if you could just kind of summarize for people, like, why should people, I'm sure in your view, it's like everyone should know their Enneagram type, right? And it would benefit them. So
less more peace. If
totally.
To do it for the president of the U.S., just AKA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So why should someone, seek out a way to find out what their type is and learn about that?
Because it helps you deepen your own self-awareness and your emotional wellness. I feel like emotional wellness and spiritual connection go hand in hand. If you are, because in spirit you're safe, you're perfect, you're free, you're fine, And in I got so excited, one of my earrings fell off. Sorry. Okay. So anyway, in spirit you're safe. You're in this place of complete connection, and we're aching for it here, and so what ends up happening is the Enneagram shows you very specifically, like an emotional MRI almost, in other words, I give a profile that's very specific to the person. They fill out a 20, I should have done it with you before, a 20, we'll do it, 20 minute, it takes you 20 minutes to do a multiple choice.
Right.
A PhD, created it. He's, or with his team, it's, he's a psychologist. It's really well received. I've used it for 16 years. And it gives you very specific, information about yourself. And people will say, how does this know my inner map of reality? And I always say, because you authored it, you self, and it's all you. And so then it's really powerful. This publisher, I gave it to the publisher of the book, and she said, oh my gosh, like I've known all this stuff about myself, but this is just underlining it. And it's really interesting, she said, for her to know that she self-rated, and that information really was derived from her answers.
Right.
It just held a different kind of meaning for her than a best friend saying, you have to give to yourself more. You know?
Right. Totally. I love that. So with our theme this month being about receiving, how would you say that knowing more about your Enneagram, and even I would imagine the Enneagram type, like you were saying with your spouse or significant other, how can that help people be more open to receiving?
Well, I feel like it takes it takes courage. There's a lot of people who say, this is not a lot. I don't run into them typically, but every now and then, you probably haven't. This is just the way I am. I'm never going to change, I typically don't run into that kind of person because the people that come to see me are really interested in inner work and they love being resourceful. And I always tell everybody, you are resourceful. You are already resourceful, but you're sitting in that seat because you want to become more resourceful. And by resourceful, I mean reconnected to your source. I mean, if I can, before I answer the question, if I could just back up and say that one thing I wanted to say, that the 9 universal aspects from a spiritual point of view are often called 9 aspects of the divine, manifestations of the divine. God is good and loving and effective and original and wise and joyful and powerful and peaceful. Also, from a psychological point of view, it's just 9 ways of being. So it's very, it's been likened to the tree of 9-foldedness in Kabbalah. The Christian mystics learned it from the Sufi masters. All the main faith traditions love it. It's very well received. But people who aren't spiritual or have a faith tradition like it too, if they're agnostic or even atheist, because it's about love. It's about reaching in. It's about digging deep and understanding what you are about in your depths, not at the surface. And it's about helping you connect to those depths so that you can have a life of thriving, not surviving.
Right.
We're in our ego and we're managed by that ego. You have to have an ego. You got to hold on to it to let it go. So it's perfectly fine that we have boxes to live in. But, the Enneagram teaches how to peek out of that box, how to fold the wall down from the box.
Right.
How to maybe kick them all down if you don't like it the way it looks for you in there.
Totally.
So how it reflects, and you have to help me a little bit, Abby, with what your question is, because I'm struggling a little bit. Receiving, how does it affect us in receiving? When you asked me that initially, like in our email conversations, I basically immediately said, well, when you are receiving this kind of gift from, that's basically ancient wisdom, new thought, been seekers forever, for it seems, or at least 4,000 years, they believe. When you are receiving, when you allow yourself to receive this gift of the deeper part of who you are, you raise the vibration not only for yourself, but for everyone around you.
Yes.
For those closest to you, and even people who you interact with on a daily basis that maybe you're not so close to, but they're just part of your life. They're part of your, but certainly the people that are really close to you, you're going to raise the vibration. It's self-care. It's self-care at the I mean, it's better than a manicure, let's
Right.
tell you.
Yeah.
Way better than a mani-pedi. Although I like those too, but
Totally. Yeah. Well, and I think of it from more this perspective as I think for so many people, especially women, we feel like we have to do everything.
mm-hmm.
Right. And like be everything and whatever. So even, I've learned this from myself, even from, I know they're not the same, but for example, learning more about myself astrologically, like you learn, like you were saying, those blind spots and weaknesses or whatever. And in some ways that's freeing because it's like, oh, I don't have to be perfect. Like
astrology matters. I
yeah.
think it matters. And actually, this is an interesting little sidebar. The Enneagram, they think way back when
Mm-hmm.
was first I don't know, I want to say heavenly, a universal application. I mean, it was up in the sky. It was 9 celestial bodies in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how they learned from the sky or whatever. I don't know a lot about this, so I'm going to just the overview here. But then at some point, it was related more to the human application. Came into being, and it was the 9 universal personality types. But you're right. When you have this information that's deeper, however you get it, whether you fell on your knees and you crawled through the dirt and had to, sort of rise up through like a phoenix. And there's all different ways of learning about yourself. And this is one way. It isn't the only way, but it is a powerful and profound way for a lot of people. And so the receptive piece is that you will receive. And because you have received, everyone in your circle will as well.
Mm-hmm. And help give them permission too, right? Like, absolutely. As they see you doing that work and all of that.
It's by being the most authentic self you can be, because this calls you into your authenticity and away from your persona.
Right.
It doesn't say you can't have a personality. It says you have a personality. Love it. That's who you are. But now, like the thing I needle pointed when I was in the hospital with depression when I was a college freshman, like that, which said, what we are is God's gift to us. What we become is our gift to God. Like that, you get to hone what you've been given. Hone it so that you thrive within it, not that you're surviving and you're a slave to some labels that somebody slapped on you.
Yes.
Enneagram is not just so I want to clear that up for sure for anybody who might be like, I don't love personality things. So I don't hear it very often, but every now and then, maybe 3 times in 16 years, I've heard, I don't like personality things. They box you in. And this is is the antithesis of boxing you in. It wants to show you where you live so that you can expand it.
Yes. I love that. Okay. Could you give us a couple examples of, it could be with yourself even, or clients you've worked with that, like how their life or situation or relationships have changed as a result of learning about their Enneagram?
Sure. And I want to one thing I forgot to tell you was that the Enneagram, you find out what your core type is. Mm-hmm. When I said the 7 mainstays, when I said you learn your strengths and challenges, you learn the emotional passion, you learn the blind spot or area of avoidance, you learn your wellness, you learn your instinctual center, are you head, heart, or gut, and you learn your wing style. You learn your wing style, which is the next door neighbor of the type.
I was going to ask you what the wing was.
So the points are the core personality types. Those are like your core. Here's peaceful. Here's good. And I say peaceful mediator, good reformer, loving giver, effective achiever, original, romantic, wise observer, loyal, skeptic, joyful adventurer, and peace and powerful protector. So they're all at the points. Mm-hmm. So the wings are the next door neighbors of the type. Do you see how this looks like? This is how we teach it a little bit, explains it. This, or at least I do, looks like a little angel body, and these look like wings.
Right.
Okay, like a little cartoon for an angel and wings. So that's how it is all the way around, even though it looks a little different as you get over here.
Right.
But it's always the wings are always the next door neighbors of the type. So if you are a peaceful type, you would either have you have two wings, but one of them is dominant.
Got it.
Then I see somebody and they have sort of equal parts both wings, but mostly they have one dominant wing. And what that means is the aspects of the powerful type affect or influence your core type of peaceful. Or let's go down to 7 and say you're a joyful type and you have a loyal wing, a dominant wing. A loyal, skeptic, winged, joyful type looks different than a powerful, protector, joyful type.
Right.
Wing,
Yeah.
joyful. So everybody has a wing, dominant, and a core personality type. And they have a wellness map.
Right.
And if your listeners remember those 3 things today that you can learn about your core personality type, your wing style, and where you go on this spectrum in safety and in stress, when you're centered or when you're tense and stressed, and learn that really well so that you can navigate through it better to make your course corrections back to the authentic place, then they will have gotten a lot.
Totally.
Those 3 things, because the meat and or the heart, or let's call it the balance of this whole paradigm, is this wellness map. I love to teach the wellness map because I look at people's eyes and they just light up and they go like, that is exactly what I do when I'm stressed. That is exactly. Or they'll say like, when I'm disconnected, and this is exactly what I do when I'm safe and I'm centered. I thrive and I look so differently. And so when you know really well what you look like as the whole you, it's easier to get back to the part of you that's thriving.
Yes.
That's really, in a nutshell, what this paradigm will do for a person.
Totally.
And you asked me about a specific person. So a specific person comes to mind who is a good reformer. Okay, so the good reformer is type 1 here.
Yeah.
And when they're safe and secure, they receive from the high side of 7, and they lighten up. They have as their emotional passion like a correctional anger, perfectionism.
Right.
And their so their perfectionism is really the emotional passion, and their blind spot is anger. Like good types will say to me, "Oh, I don't get angry that often." And I'll say, "Well, but how often do you like to be right?" And they say, "Oh, all the time."
Right. Right.
Your righteousness, your longing, your loving to be right is sort of a smokescreen for your correctional anger. Right. You're a good reformer. You just see a way how to make things better. That's just who you are.
Yes. When
you do it to a fault, you drive yourself crazy and everybody around you, and you're doing it because you want to be special. You get stressed. I'm not good enough. You go down to the low side of 4 and say, "Oh, I beat yourself up," and you're like, "Well, how can I do it? How can I do it better?" And then you get in this spinning your wheels, how you can do it better, and then it's like enough already. People will use that expression for other things, but it's a good one for that. And you have to let go. So what happens when you let go and you say things to yourself as a good reformer, like, "It's not really my problem. Sorry, it's not really my problem. Love you, love all of you, but it's just not my problem. I'm going to go shopping, but I'll see you later." Right. Then you're receiving from the high side of 7, the joyful. You are physically and emotionally enlightening and unburdening. And your heaven on earth becomes all of your ability to be a part of the whole and not have to reform it. It can live with it and accept it.
Right.
And let go of God, a lot of the time. And when you do that, you're a very emotionally healthy one. When you're in this trajectory, when the arrow goes away from the type, you're going away from yourself. Literally, authentically. I mean, you're going away. You're saying, "I'm not good enough." You get that perfectionism running. You get angry, but you don't want to admit it. But then you have to, actually, it's very healthy for one to say, "Yeah, I was angry. I'm sorry I told you where to park when I wasn't really driving. It's no skin off my nose where we park.
Right.
I just always see a way how to make things better. Sorry.
Right.
It wasn't really my place. I'm not the driver." and life is in the details, right?
Mm-hmm.
So good reformers have to do that a lot, all day long. Like, let go and say, it's not my problem. It's not always my problem.
Right.
That's a healthy mantra for a 1. And so I have a friend who happens to have that. And one time, and I'm a 7, and I go to the low side of 1 when I'm stressed, so I know it well. And when I'm safe and secure, I receive from the high side of 5, the wise observer. And so, I see the big picture. I have a healthful detachment. My heaven on earth is all my ability to enlighten and unburden, to detach, see the big picture, which is to say, I don't really have the big picture. Nobody has the big picture. We just get glimpses of the big picture.
Right.
But I get to this very free place, and everybody does when they go to their high side of their type and the type that floods into them. So, but when I'm stressed, I can get scattered, and then I can get a lot of much running, and then I go to the low side of 1 and get perfectionistic. And I'm pretty good at identifying when I do that now, thanks to this. And I'll be like, oh, no, thanks. I know what that is, that where I'm going with that.
Right.
And I say in the vernacular of Jerry Seinfeld, don't go there.
Right.
So it's just a really helpful paradigm. It says on the top, you can see healing ourselves through the Enneagram. And so if there's, would there be one on here that would be interesting for you to know about? Is there anyone? Do you have a sense of what you might be?
When I've done one of those online quizzes, so now I'm like, how accurate was it? I was a 3.
You are. So are you a doer?
Yeah, which did not surprise me. So I think that's probably what I am.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the wing either.
When I was talking to you about the low side of 9 being, zoning out, self-forgetting, numbing yourself a little bit. Did that ring a bell at all? Like in stress, would that be behaviors that you identify with a little bit?
Yeah, totally.
So, and I love your honesty. You don't have to let me, do this right here in front of God and everybody.
No, this is great.
But it's awesome because the more we know about ourselves, the more we can, as I said, live from a place of thriving, because then you navigate, the more you know that you do that, the more you can say, I know what I'm doing to myself here, and this is not what I want to be doing. This isn't good.
Like you said, everyone has those.
Everybody's got a trajectory.
Yeah.
So, but your high trajectory is, or your healthy trajectory, I don't want to be high and low, but we use the word high for resourceful and low for non-resourceful, at least I do. So the 3 receives from the high side of 6, the loyal personality. And that doesn't mean you just are loyal to other people. That means loyal. Remember, this is all about the self. So it's to thine own self be true. Right. You know, as a 3, when you're safe and secure, you know what you know what you know. You have this very strong inner knowing, and it is almost unshakable when you are centered, because it's that strong. And so it's that pipeline to the divine or the source or the force, and the force is with us, not against us, and you have all that deep faith. And what ends up happening, so your heaven on earth as a 3 becomes all your ability to get it done, be motivator, motivate other people, walk the talk, all those good things. And it's all inner motivated. It's motivated by your truth.
Right.
When you're stressed, 3s can let image and role and being a chameleon outweigh their feelings, and that's their task. Their tendency is to let image and role trump feeling, and their task is to reverse that and say, check in with their feelings. What am I feeling about this? I'm depleted. I've worked 60 hours this week. The world's going to go on if I delegate this to somebody else, is how I'm feeling.
Totally.
And that's the healthy stuff of the 3, because they listen to that inner truth, which is so very strong. And it's strong for all of us. But what I'm trying to get at with the 6 is that loyal to thine own self, loyal skeptic, to thine own self be true, floods in, and you're vigilant, and you've you've scanned the environment and you know what you know. So you're not missing a trick.
Totally. I love that. That's awesome.
And so you really, having coaching sessions with me would help you cultivate that, cultivate that trajectory, which I believe is who you're meant to be.
Right.
Not this trajectory. I was so happy to learn about this, Abby, because I was like, oh my God, my whole life, I grew up Catholic and I was trying so hard to be good. And it was so exhausting. I was exhausting myself trying to be good, which was this low side of
yes.
And when I found out that the trajectory for my life is that big picture, and I always knew I liked to be light and have fun and enjoy, but the other piece was so enlightening for me. To learn about that healthful detachment of the 5. So everybody's got these amazing gifts and this depth, and I love turning people onto it.
Yes. And so to take it a step further, I'm wondering what the ideas with Enneagram people, do they believe that it's like you are born in a certain Enneagram, like to astrology, or that this is all developed from your upbringing, from epigenetics, from whatever you're imprinted with?
Yeah, see, we really don't know the answer to that. And what really I feel good scholars would say is we don't know.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say we don't know. We don't know everything, but here's what I think we do know, that it's a combination of nature and nurture. If temperament comes in the womb, or we come into this life with something, how do we know that we don't come back until we've done all of these and mastered all of them?
Sure.
How do we know that my imagination could really run in a crazy, wild way if I wanted to, if I let it go? How do we know if, we certainly know that we come to the table, meaning the table of life, in our mother's arms or our caretaker's arms after we're born, with something. We come with temperament or a nature of some sort. And then they believe, experts, 5 years at the most, 4 they believe now, we are nurtured, and we have this little personality. And you can see it in my book. I write a piece about Claire, who's 2, and my dad comes in, and she's in the crib, and she's already developing that little persnickety one personality. My dad says, Claire, are you reading? Or he goes, Claire, are you up? What are you doing? And she said, Grandpa, can't you see I'm reading? And she had the book upside down, whatever, she was 2. But, she had that little irritation in her, that little, ones just see a way how to make things better. Like, don't irritate me right now, I'm reading.
Right.
They just, it's just little personalities develop, or you see a kid who's got like a giant heart. He's just really, a compassionate little sweet 3-year-old, and he's already developed that loving giver. And do we get it from our parents? Sure. And do we get it from our caregivers and caretakers and school and all the different experiences that we find in our environment? Yes. So it's just sort of a both and.
All of it, yeah.
Nature and nurture, and whatever is under those 2 umbrellas.
Yes. Now, your 4 kids, are they all different types?
Yes, I have a 1. And then I remember when Christopher came home from the University of Dayton, I was so happy because he was such a pistol. And he goes, Mom, I think I'm ready to do my Enneagram. I was like,
yes.
I was like, yes, one small step for mankind. I was so excited. And he did it, and he got a lot out of it. But, you get a certain amount out of things at different times in your life, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember giving it to junior high kids. And that was a little bit, you had to be real surfacey, because they couldn't take much of it. But 18-year-olds, certainly, I gave seniors in high school at Loyola Academy, and they loved it. This one girl raised her hand, and she goes, can you tell me, like, a little bit more about the giver and why we avoid our own needs, and how we cannot do that so much? And I was just like, and I answered her, and at the end of it, she came up and gave me a big hug and was like, thank you so much. Because I think the first 40 years of our life, we're putting stuff in our backpacks that everybody everybody tells us to do and to be,
Right.
and and then the next 4 years you just start taking it out, and
Yep.
like life gets mighty precious, as Bonnie Raitt said, when there's less of it to waste, and you want to be authentic, and you want to be yourself, and you want to be thriving, not surviving. And so these paradigms become important,
Totally.
And I always go off on a tangent. Did I answer your question?
I was wondering what all your kids are.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Christopher, I stopped there. And then Carly is the 9. She's the peaceful type like her dad.
Uh-huh.
But she came in 2 points. It's very interesting with Carly, because I've done these profiles and the readings, the written comprehensive reading for people. And you can see, like, on them what your core type is, what your wing style is, what your wellness map is. And then you can also see how those 9 universal types, those aspects, fit within the unique snowflake that you are.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a 9, or you're a 3, Carly was a 9, and then right up smack next to that, 2 points away, came 7. So when it's that close, I have to ask the person, like, does it feel right, this whole thing about 9? We'll go over 9 and 7, peaceful
Right.
types and joyful. And she really still felt strongly that it was the peaceful. Those were her challenges of the peaceful type.
Mm-hmm.
The going to the low side of 6 and getting doubt and fear running, being the doubting Thomas. That was more her. And when she's safe and secure, being very, effective, a doer. So that 6-9-3 would be really interesting for you to learn. It's always interesting for people who fall in that triangle. That's the center. 6-9-3.
Yep.
One thing I wanted to say that I think will be interesting for the viewers, and I just learned this. I think I learned it a couple times, but it hit me this year stronger than ever before at the International Enneagram Association conference. You can divide these 9 types into a couple of other, one other triad, which besides that of the head, heart, and gut that I talked about. So type 4, the original, type 5, the wise, and type 9 they dial down. They're dial down types. Mm-hmm. They withdraw.
Yep.
Type 1, I'm going to say, type 2, and type 6, the good reformer, the loving giver, and the loyal skeptic. They're like dutiful types. And 3, the effective achiever, 7, the joyful adventurer, and 8, the powerful protector, they are go for it types. Mm-hmm. So that's just something that was interesting, and helping Carly discern that too between 7 and 9, because she's definitely a dial, not a go. She's effective and she's efficient and she's all that great stuff when she's centered. But you just have to look at your pattern in day-to-day life. My 4th child, Caitlin, is an 8. She's an 8 with a 7 wing, and I am the opposite. I'm a 7 with a wing. Yeah. So, it's 8s can come to the table a little bit. We probably had a good amount of stress going on in the house at that time. We had teenagers. Claire was 11 when Caitlin was born, so we had 11 and 8 and 4 and 1, and that's a lot of commotion. Right. And so Caitlin kind of probably came with fists up a little bit instead of
totally.
Don't hit me, anybody. Don't
totally. I love that.
But we're just a good old family like everybody else. But I'm telling you, this has been incredibly helpful in terms of my kids always coming to me whenever they have problems. They go to dad for business, but me for emotional stuff.
Totally. And at what age with your kids were you like, okay, let's do this?
That's right. About it. 18 is a really good, a senior in high school it's really helpful. Don't forget, I didn't really say why I had that clinical depression, but I was in a nursing program in college, and I just wasn't meant to be there, and I just felt like a big failure. And I remember my dad came. I wrote about this in this book. I actually have it right here. It's called No Mistakes. It's a great book. It's 5 years old now, but if anybody would want to read it, I wrote a chapter called The Call, and it was about this dark night of my soul. And my dad came in, and he's to the counseling office at this college, and he said, what seems to be the trouble? And I said, I don't know who I am. And he said, well, you're a child of God. And I said, I don't know what that means. And it's just in this incredibly dark night, and had to go through all of that and had to deal with all of it. And it was just what needed to happen. And I was loved and had a great family, but there was just a lot of black and white and not enough room to sort of really know who I was, given that kind of big decision to make and all of that. And I just felt like a big failure, and I just fell apart. Sometimes things need to fall away, as Pema Chodron says, when things fall apart, they pull together even better.
Totally.
So, but I didn't know who I was. And so my first market is midlife people, I feel like. But I think the secondary market is, or almost an equal market, are 18 to 25.
Like what a gift it would be, like you said, to know all that so young, to know that about yourself.
To have the depth and to be like, it is a real gift. And I am so willing. I don't know why I've been so busy with this book too, and all this. This book that I've written is called Who You're Meant to Be, The Enneagram Effect, and it's coming in December.
Ooh,
and so
perfect.
I've been so busy, and otherwise I would have offered that, but I offer it now. I will be happy to do yours complimentary for you.
Totally. Okay. Well, and I was just going to ask you to talk about your book.
Oh, well, it's just really about what we've been talking about. It's how I came into it, and the 7 mainstays, and the effect this will have upon your life if you let it, and you work with it. And knowing is one thing, but using it as a wisdom practice and using that wellness map, or what the other authors in this field call the points of integration and disintegration, or you will hear the arrows of the Enneagram, or you'll see them on the symbol, and you'll be like, what is that?
Right.
But it's really just a simple wellness map that shows you what you look like when you're most authentic, when you are most yourself, when you are thriving, and you are in a deeper place. You're not in a place of surviving.
Totally.
It's what you, as a 3, are hearing that stuff from within, your deeper truth. And you are motivated by that deeper truth, not by image or role. And because otherwise, if you're like a chipmunk on roller skates as a 3, who's motivated by role and image and chameleon all the time, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? How do I do this better? And how do I look more like the perfect wife and the perfect daughter and the perfect sister and the perfect friend and the best role model? And then no wonder you go to the low side of 9 and narcoticize and get depleted.
Right.
Who wouldn't?
Right. Totally.
When you're on that kind of treadmill.
Yeah.
But so cutting back from that and saying, I'm going to do that. That's who I am. That's part of my personality. I'm not perfect. I'm going to still struggle with overdoing and underbeing. And now that I know that, I'm going to really work and pay attention to how good I feel when I'm in a place of being and not overdoing.
Yes, and easier than to like catch yourself when you get into that pattern.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. It's catching. The more you get jiggy with this wisdom, the more you catch yourself.
Yes.
And you save yourself a lot of crap.
Totally.
You save yourself a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Totally. Well, I love that. So we will definitely, in the notes, link to your book, which will be a great resource for people to learn more. Okay. I have a couple fun questions, and then we'll wrap it up. So I want to know, what is your morning routine?
Well, I usually do my angel cards. Because I got certified to do angel card readings, and I want to just add that when I do a comprehensive written reading, Enneagram reading with a client, I will offer an angel card sort of thing, that because it sort of underlines what they're learning, because they get a sort of a visceral experience by asking questions of the angel card, of the angels,
right?
Because it's all energy. Everything's energy. You're just asking for this guidance to come through me, and we use those two avenues, and so it can be very powerful for people. And so I like doing that, and I usually, my old farmer, my parents were farmers. Not my parents, my mom came from a farming family. And I was thinking about that today, because after I take a little time for myself, which I always do, I think it's important, then I go tend to the animals. I'm like feed the dogs, feed the cats, and then I take my time, hygiene time, and then, usually get going. But I do believe in doing some form of meditation. And that the angel card readings, even if sometimes I'll say, like, you didn't do it today. And then I'll say, well, then just do a card. So what's your card for the day?
Totally.
So always. And then I always do an astrological reflection too. My sister does astrological charts. And so funny how far that's come as well. I always thought visionary, and, there's still so many people that don't think that's important, but I think there's insight to be gained, depending who it is. I like the daily. I do the daily Om. I like
sure. Totally. I love that. Okay. And what advice would you tell your younger self?
I would say that, to have great faith in the process. Just it's you want to hurry it up. You just don't always want it to be the way it is. I remember going into therapy a few times and going, why do I still have to work on this?
Right.
Like, so I have to work on this. I mean, I've been working on whatever this was, the issue of the day, whatever. And the thing is, the process is probably, in my deepest part of me, my estimation, how it's supposed to be, not how we think it's supposed to be.
Yes.
So I would say trust the process, and hang in there when you want to hurry it up. It's all right. You don't have to hurry it up. It's okay.
Totally. It's so funny. I always love to ask everyone that question, and I would say, I think it's got to be close to 100% of the time. It's some form of like chill out.
Of that.
Like relax. Everything's fine. It's all going to work out.
That's what we learn. See, as we get older too, and this is why it's so wonderful to give back now, because when I was younger, I would have just been like, but I don't like trusting the process. I want the answer today, or I want it to figure out, or whatever it would be, And the thing is, it's just when it comes, when it happens, however it, shakes out, it's most likely supposed to be that way. And I would also add to that have a process. Like, I don't think God or my God, or if you don't believe in God, I don't really care, but your source or whoever you are doesn't expect perfection, but expects if you want any kind of growth to happen, you have to have conscious process.
Right.
So, I think if you're doing that part of the co-creating, I'm here, I'm willing, I'm doing what I know how to do, then trust the rest will unfold and be co-created with you. Totally.
Okay. And then can you let us know, how can our listeners get in touch with you? What is like your website, your, all that good stuff?
Sure. I'm at spiritdrivenliving.com. So it's all one, SPIRIT, then the word driven, DRIVEN, living, LIVING, spiritdrivenliving.com. And I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Rosemary Hurwitz, also Facebook as Spirit Driven Living. Okay. And I'm happy to, give an email, but sometimes I get weirded out about that, because then you get so many emails and I'm already flooded.
Right, totally. We'll let them find you on your website. It's all good.
Great.
And so you guys know, Rosemary has a very generous offer for all of you. If you would like to do an initial Enneagram written reading or consult, she is going to honor a 20% off discount, which is $30 savings, which is awesome. So do you want them to just message if they reach out to you that they heard about you from this interview?
Yes. Yeah. And I love Be Optimal, and Dr. Carey and Dr. Abby and everybody associated there. It's just been great. I have given a few workshops in the past. Maybe I will in the future. We'll see. But I'm happy to honor, either a written reading or a written reading and a consult. So just so they're clear, the written reading, the consult's $150 and they'd get it for $120. That involves a 75-minute, hour and 15-minute consult, and in person or on the phone after they've received their written reading. A written reading is $100, and that would also be, I'm just doing 30 off on either. So whatever you want it, that's just your lucky day. If you want to just do the written reading, it's $70. The other one's $120. Generally, people want to have the consult in addition to written reading, but it's totally your choice.
Totally. All right, that's awesome. So definitely contact Rosemary. We'll leave all the information to contact her, the information about the promo, and about your lovely book that's going to be coming out, which will be perfect gift for the holidays for people. Yeah,
I'm excited.
Totally.
We have another one too. It's 52 weeks of gratitude, and it's going to be, I have two like essays or, pieces in there, and it's going to be kind of nice. It'll be a piece, a story, an article, an essay, whatever, and then a coloring page, and then a journal page.
Nice.
So that'll be on my website. It's 52 weeks of gratitude, and that's supposed to be coming out in December too. So yeah, all's good. How's everything at the Optimal?
It's awesome. Yeah, going well.
Good.
Yeah. All right, Rosemary. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Abby. It's so easy to talk to you. So nice. You're such a sweetheart. And say hi to everybody for me.
Will do. Thanks so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.